Welcome back to Our Community. Susie Thomas visiting with State Representative Kirk Schuring. You've been a public service servant for some time now, Kirk. How long have you been serving between being state representative and state senator?
Old, Susie.
What?
Doggone it. You said you wouldn't do that now.
Oh, no. No. I mean this in a good way. You've really devoted your life work
well, I'm
to it.
honored. I'm very honored that the people of Stark County have elected me both to the Ohio House and to the Ohio Senate. Now, of course, I'm back in the House, and I'm the Speaker pro tempore of the Ohio House. And again, it's been an honor to serve the people here in Stark County. And so I've been doing that now almost 25 years.
Really? Okay, I didn't realize that long. Wow, that's pretty amazing. Yeah, and you haven't aged a bit. It's interesting, I think, when people talk about term limits. There's something to be said, and I think of Ralph Regula and how he served our area so well for so long. There's something to be said for having someone with experience in there. And my goodness, we have automatic built-in term limits. It's called voting, right? If you don't want somebody there, it's almost like they're saying, stop us from voting for you. But your feeling about that, because it seems way better to have my personal opinion, and I'm not, I'll do the disclaimer, I'm not representing anyone here at the station. I just think it's smart to have somebody who knows what they're doing in there. You're doing great for us. We don't want you to stop.
Right. Well, I think you're spot on. We've always had a form of term limits before there was the constitutional amendment, and we called it an election.
Exactly.
And over the years prior to term limits, there were people who were booted out of office because they were not accessible and responsive to the people back home. They did not subscribe to that theme that you and I talked about earlier, that all politics is local.
Yeah.
So they didn't pass the test. They didn't get their contract renewed when they went back to the people for them to be reelected. So term limits, interestingly, actually has made the whole thing more political. When the amendment passed in 1992, the proponents thought that it would depoliticize the system. Actually, my experience has been it's actually made it more political because everybody who comes into the General Assembly now is looking for a place to land. They know they're on a dead-end street, and they got to find some place to go. So they're always got an eye for another political office they're going to run for. And it's usually something that, again, it's a non-legislative office. It might be a statewide office. It might be a congressional office. It might be a local office. It might be some appointment to some state agency. So, rather than just being satisfied with where they're at and taking the time to learn the issues and to also earn the respect of their colleagues and move up the leadership ladder, everybody's got sharp elbows and trying to push everybody else out of the way. And we still, as I said earlier, we still get a lot done.
Yes.
And we have a lot of great people who have come to the State House vis-a-vis term limits. I mean, there are some really sharp people, and I've had a pleasure to work with many of them over the years, and I've seen the good ones come and go. But there is a downside to it, and I think maybe someday the people of Ohio will decide to change that. But the polls show that overwhelmingly people like term limits. They don't like politicians, and so that seems to be the trend.
Well, politicians is one thing. Public servants is another, and you're certainly a public servant. One of the things you've worked so hard on is working as far as with the film industry and getting tax credits, making it worth their while to make more movies and television shows in Northeast Ohio. And thanks for that. That's been an amazing, fun new thing that's been brought in. And we're seeing so many cool movies made, even just in the Sugar Creek area, in Canton, up in Cleveland. We're seeing so many films come from here because what's the amenity here? That Ohio can look like anything? Because it almost can.
Well, I went to Hollywood back in 2016 and talked to major studio executives from Disney, from Universal, from Warner Brothers. They all said they loved Ohio. They love Ohio because of the diversity of our state, the diversity in landscapes. You can go and see cityscapes in Cleveland and Cincinnati and Columbus. You can see small town Ohio. in Worcester or Sugar Creek or anywhere like that. You can see water, Lake Erie, the Ohio River. You can see the foothills of the Appalachian Mountains. And then we also have a diversity in population. That's why Ohio's been known as the bellwether state, because we are a microcosm of the United States. So for all those reasons, movie producers love Ohio. And I just got back from New York at the request and invitation of Art Falco, the president of the Cleveland Playhouse District, and had a chance to meet with top Broadway producers, Jeffrey Sellers, the producer of Hamilton, David Stone, the producer of Wicked, and Thomas Schumacher, the president of Disney's Broadway productions. And they all said the same thing that the people in California said, and that is they love Ohio, and they want to start bringing Broadway productions to Ohio if we have a tax credit. And there's only a few states that have a tax credit now. They want Ohio to be another one. And, the bottom line here, I wouldn't do any tax credits just for the glamour and glitz for movies and Broadway productions to come to Ohio. It's got to be rooted in economic impact, economic benefit. And so I've said every time that I've done something like this, that's what we have to do. And so far, they've been able to show that it does have an economic benefit, particularly as it relates to a skilled workforce. What they want in Hollywood and what they want in New York, what they want in Ohio, is all those other things I mentioned, but they also want the infrastructure. Now, it's not the infrastructure that we typically use that term for when we talk about highways and water and sewer, bricks and mortar. It's about a workforce, the stagehands, the sound crews, the people who build the sets that they can see. And then that means that's permanent jobs. That's permanent economic positive impact.
Wow, yes.
And that's what we want. So,
where would they hold? Would we be building new theaters, or would we've got the incredible Palace Theater here. What a fun place to go see Hamilton. That would be awesome.
Yeah, it would be. There would be three different ways that we would do it. And I've talked to Georgia Paxo at the Canton Palace Theater, and she, is excited about this because we would have what they call a pre-Broadway production, where it would be something that would be touring Ohio, be up at Cleveland Playhouse Square, possibly have some rehearsals at the Canton Palace Theater, doing the fine-tuning before it goes to Broadway. They're also talking about what they call sit-down productions, where they actually would camp out a major hit like Wicked or Hamilton in Cleveland, Ohio, for 1 or 2 years, because they have the support of the tax credit. And then there's also start a tour where they would start the tour of the Broadway productions after they run on Broadway, and they would start them here because they're always looking to change things. So they would change them up a little bit and make them better before they start touring other parts of the United States. So those are the three things we're looking at, and I'm right now in the midst of drafting legislation with the advice and consent from the folks at Playhouse Square to make sure we get it done right. But again, New York, Hollywood, they all love Ohio, and they can do. The cost of doing business in this state is much less than what it is in California and New York, too.
Yes.
So there's a wide variety of reasons that they want to come here. And again, we can show permanent economic activity if we do it right.
Oh, my goodness, yes. And, when you think about it, our town of Canton, Ohio, is so ahead of the game with the arts. When you think of the quality of programs we already get to see at the Players Guild, at the ballet, at the symphony. I mean, these guys have to come in and be kind of impressed with what we've got with our volunteers, yes?
Well, yes. And by the way, some of those volunteers who have always had a hankering, to be doing something on a permanent basis, but haven't been able to do it because there hasn't been the steady drumbeat of demand, some of those folks will be able to say, okay, well, now, since we're going to be doing something here in Ohio, in this region of the state on a regular basis, they can maybe take up an occupation
Wow.
that they
Yeah.
heretofore have been doing on a voluntary basis, but now they can do it on a permanent basis and get paid for it.
Get paid for it. Have it be a job. What a fun job. That sounds awesome. One of the
Yep.
things that I remember we talked about, the downside of Ohio is our weather. And that one thing that might deter them from coming in and having permanent, and I'm talking about Hollywood again, it would be a sound stage. Sometimes you just have to be able to shoot indoors. And I think there was some movement on trying to locate a place or build something. Is that still in the works? You're still talking about a sound stage somewhere in Northeast Ohio?
Yes, I mean, there's many different plans afoot in that regard. We actually did an appropriation for Cleveland State University in our last capital budget that's going to help them not only build a soundstage but also have a school that will
wow.
again train and educate students who want to be the stagehands, the sound crew, so on and so forth. But I'll just tell you, they love Ohio, and one of the reasons they love Ohio is they love the diversity of weather too. You can't simulate
Really?
snow in California.
True.
Okay, you
can
can.
try.
They try to, but they don't do a very good job.
No.
Ice, snow, and then hey, we got some great summer weather here. We got beautiful
Yes.
fall weather. So I'm all in for Ohio. So I don't think there's any negative thing about Ohio. I know some might disagree with me. We're actually, to my point, they love Ohio so much. I've actually talked to some of these people and I've said, look, I love that you love Ohio. Would you help us with a public service announcement just talking about how great you think Ohio is? Because a lot of times we Ohioans, we get in a rut and we don't think our state is all that great. We always like to, disparage our state because of the weather and stuff like that. Well, again, it was refreshing to get outside our state and talk to others who have a lot of influence, a lot of stature, and they say they love Ohio and they don't care about the weather.
That's
they love the
really
weather
awesome
too
to
because
hear.
the weather gives great backdrop for some of the things they want to do.
Absolutely. Nothing like real ice and snow on those window panes. You're right.
Yeah.
You can't fake that. Well,
And we might be getting some soon, so just remember when that happens.
how
be
much they
smiling.
love it. Okay, I will smile. Kirk, we need to let people know how to get in touch with you because you are so great at being available to the people you serve. How can we do that?
Best way is to contact me via email, and that email address is rep48 at ohiohouse.gov. rep48 at ohiohouse.gov.
Great. Kirk Schuring, our great state representative, thank you so much for what you're doing in our community.
Thank you, Susie, and I hope you have a Merry Christmas.
You too.